Well, hello there. Happy Wednesday. It is time for another episode with BYOK with your girl, Renita. So, we are on episode number 3. So, last Wednesday, we talked about landing your career in your 20s. We talked about the importance of networking, which will still be mentioned today because it doesn't matter how old you are, networking is still so very, very important. And we talked about, not going into your industry as a know-it-all. I mean, you may know things, but experience, the people that you're being hired by probably have way more experience and way more insight, and so go in there as a sponge ready to like absorb all that up. So if you want to like check out that episode, you can just go on YouTube and go to that episode. But today we're going to dedicate it for our 30s and 40 folks. So this is probably personal for me as well because I am in my 40s, and so I have transitioned. I started transitioning probably late 20s, where because I was working in a law firm and I just wanted to figure out what industry that best suits me, and HR seemed like a good fit for me because I've had got my undergrad in psychology, and then I realized maybe I didn't want to be a therapist. So that is barbering. So I changed it to so I transitioned to HR from the psychology because I felt like they complemented each other. Like you're still helping, solving problems and things of that sort. And so one boom, I'm in HR, and so now I'm transitioning into the freelancing slash fractionalized worker, which we'll get into the difference later. And so that's the quick of it of my story or whatever. And I just want to let you know, if you're in your 30s and your 40s and you've been doing something, for a while, like even all of your 20s and all of your 30s, and then you just wake up at 40 and you're just like, I feel like there's something more that I can be doing. Don't feel bad because you are not alone. A lot of people start to transition into different careers around their late 30s or mid 30s and 40s, because they want to do things more meaningful, more impactful, or their priorities have changed. Balance of family and work have changed. Maybe they want to spend more time with their children, etc. So you're not alone in this, and we're going to cover a couple of scenarios. I have notes today, y'all. I just want to say that because I have like ideas and then I do the research for the video, but because my communication style is kind of like I veer off basically, and so then I lose my point. So I got notes today so we can stay on subject. So if I veer off, I'm like, hey, come back. So anyway, so let's get back to it. So a couple of scenarios we're going to talk about are people that are looking to change careers, people that are looking to switch to different companies because, like I said, priorities have changed, and then those who have taken a break from life, like at home moms or at home dads, or people that were just took a break from work for any miscellaneous reasons, and now they're ready to return back into the workforce, and that normally happens around this age range too. So let's get into it. So and hello. So on my notes, we're starting with transitioning out of the traditional corporate culture, like why a lot of people are thinking of that. So I found a survey on brainmanager.com. It says the surveys find that majority of workers change careers at least once during their working life, approximately like 83%, and with the top um reason being is job satisfaction. Once again, when you're in your 20s, which we talked about last week, you're so passionate about this field. You might have even went to college about for this field, or and was educated on this field, and you were like, yes, this is what I want to do. And then a decade passed and you're like, maybe this is not what I want to do. Maybe the hours are too long. Maybe the work is not as rewarding as you thought it was going to be. For whatever reason, you just don't want to do it anymore. And so that's why I said that it's pretty common. If you think that it's not common, like, well, I don't like this anymore, because you're changing. We are constantly evolving. There's a study saying we are not the same person we were 10 minutes ago. So imagine 10 years later. So anyhow, another reason, due to the pandemic, because I feel like we we have entered this type of mode where it's the pre-pandemic life and the post-pandemic life. And so it's hard to not mention 2020 when you're talking about changes in the workforce, or changes period, right? So in this instance, in the pandemic, we were quarantined. Basically, we couldn't go outside. Companies had to adjust to a more remote type of work. And so we were allowed, like, jobs where you required to come to work in every day. There was a such thing as hybrid and remote work, but it wasn't as big as it is now. Like, it wasn't as impactful as it is now. And so you I was a part of one of those jobs where it wasn't essential to be at the workplace, but it was essential, to work, because I was doing payroll. People might have wanted to get paid, but either way, I transitioned from 100% in the office into 100% remote. And so as the pandemic subsided, we were offered to work hybrid. So I only had to come in when it was things that I needed to complete in the office, which at that case were I-9s, because during that quarantine, we had the flexibility of doing so much, like entering so much information for the I-9. And so, of course, when the world opened back up, we had to have all those people come in, show us the documentation. You I-9 folks know what that's all about. So USCIS, which, to those that don't know, is the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services. And they handle the I-9s. And, when you are starting work, you pretty much have to confirm citizenship, or confirm your sponsorship, or confirm what visa that you're here in the United States for. And so a lot of that stuff is like in-person stuff. And so I had to return into the office specifically for that reason, and I can work from home otherwise. Yet and still, like, working from home gave you flexibility, right? Like, you didn't, first of all, you saved money on transportation, especially to travel far, basically from work to home or whatever. Also, flexibility, like, so for your children, people who may have to pay for, like, after school care or daycare, didn't have to, because the kids, they're at home when the kids return. Then I think it was no school during that time, but when kids returned to school, mom was still at home, and she didn't have to worry about paying a service to watch her children and her pets, like people walking their dogs, and or people that did like a pet daycare. You saved expenses on that, and you got to spend more time with your family at home, because you don't have that long commute back and forth. And so people started kind of reprioritizing life and wanted that flexibility. So let's fast forward, like, as years are rolling by, 2022, 2023, 24, we're at 25. A lot of companies are trying to return to that traditional corporate culture, essentially, when it comes to working in the office. But I guess the premise is, if we got the work done at home during the pandemic, we still can get that same work, completed at home, unless it's an exception of what I mentioned about, the I-9s or whatever. So a lot of people are revolting. People don't want to go back to that. There are a lot of people that are transitioning companies for that reason, because they still want that flexibility. And are they wrong? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? So I found out about this. It's called coffee badging. Apparently, this has been going on for a couple of years. And while I was researching, to give you guys some definitive information, not just things off the top of my head, I came across coffee badging. So coffee badging is basically like just showing your face at work. And they're saying like 58% of hybrid workers they do this. Like, they admit that they've coffee badged. Basically, you come in, you drink some coffee, show your face, and then you go home and continue working. So it's not like you just coming into the office and then you go about your day. You leave and go about your day. No, you come in, you show face, you socialize, you leave, you return home, you do your work. And so I didn't even know this was a thing. I don't even know, technically, a lot of Do management know that this is happening? Because like I say, most people are working hybrid, so you might not be at work at the same time that your boss is, so you might can kind of get away with this, and they don't even know that you're coffee badging or at all, so I found this video for a guy to actually explain what it is, because I'm just giving you the short of it, but he's basically like, it's basically aligning with what I was saying, was people are just not interested in working, working in the office anymore. And I'm mentioning this, and you probably like, Renita, how is this related? This is related because you could be in the process of interviewing and looking for companies because you want to have the flexibility of remote work or hybrid work. And so I just want to get into this coffee badgering right quick. So here we go. This is courtesy of Pete Newsom on TikTok, and I also have this link down there in the notes. Let's press play here.
Of 2,000 U.S. workers. The big takeaway is that hybrid work is here to stay. It's not going away. It's a lasting shift. 73% of companies haven't changed their hybrid or remote policies in the past year.
Can you believe that? Okay, I'll keep going.
And that's a good thing, because flexibility, it seems, is non-negotiable with employees. If companies rolled back remote options, 40% of employees said they'd start job hunting right away. 22% would demand a raise, and 5% said they would quit outright. Only 10% said they wouldn't mind losing that flexibility. And it sounds like employees are willing to back that up too, saying that they'd trade an average of 8 to 9% of their salary for more flexibility.
And you see how important that is, and that's why some companies are not changing it, but there are a lot of huge companies that are trying to revert back. So I couldn't even believe that a lot of people didn't change it yet. It seemed like companies are enforcing it, but they're not changing their policy on that, just to kind of keep that flexibility and to sustain their employees, their employment rate.
The report also highlights new trends like polyworking, where 28% of employees have a second job. When do we stop calling that side hustle? Do we need another term for it? I guess we have one, whether we want it or not. Also, coffee badging is something that 43% of hybrid employees admit that they sometimes do, which is where they just show up at the office long enough to be seen. Another thing the survey shows is how much crossover there is between work and life, with 59% scheduling personal appointments during business hours. I suspect that number has always been about that. It seems like it's been a common thing throughout my entire career. But 65% are interested in micro shifting. And that's where they would break their day into short nonlinear work blocks based on their own personal energy levels and productivity patterns. So definitely something that employers should consider doing if it allows their employees to be happier and get more work done. That's a win.
And that is a win-win. I just want to come out there. Like, that is a win-win because like I say, people are now prioritizing their personal life, their children. Like back in the day, especially with our baby boomers, it was like, okay, we got to work to the death. We got to work the overtime. You got to be you started a job in your 20s and you retire about that job, whether it doesn't matter if it's toxic, it doesn't matter if it doesn't align with what you want to do anymore. You were to commit to that company and to that job. Now people are not on that. Their mental health is so important. I feel like mental health was really highlighted in 2020 because everyone had the time to sit, in that quarantine and realize, like, maybe I'm not okay. Maybe I am missing my certain parts of my children's life, like things of that sort. So that's when the culture changed. So I think it is smart that people are not changing their policies as far as remote and hybrid work. However, with the micro shifts, and I know a lot of people are now trying to transition into like the 4-day week. Like maybe I'll work 10 hours Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, I can have a 3-day weekend. A lot of people are trying to change their schedule. And I feel like if companies don't roll with the times, as what Pete was saying, like you have to increase that flexibility. So if companies are starting to revert back and being inflexible as far as scheduling, that's going to cause a huge issue, within employment. But this video, I'm getting off subject, but this video is for you, that the employee. But if you own a company, please keep in mind, like, benefits are more than just PTO days, vacation days, and healthcare. People are now prioritizing their mental health. Mental health days, like, everyone can be allotted 3 mental health days throughout the year, and it doesn't take from their PTO and their sick time budget. Like, you got to be creative with these benefits. So that's another video, so maybe I'll put that on my list for video. So anyway, let's get back to the subject. So we're talking about reasons of why people in their 30s and 40s are changing their careers, right? So we talked about the coffee badging. So reason number 2, and I swiftly talked about this in the intro, is people want to follow a passion, or they want to feel like they're making an impact, right? And I can relate to that. I worked for a foreclosure law firm for 12 years, and I felt like, I'm not really helping, especially in being in customer service and hearing these stories about people losing their homes and being into debt and things of that sort. And there's nothing that they can do. They don't have the money. They can't bring their mortgage up. And then some people found out about the foreclosure because they didn't open their mail, maybe, or whatever the case. They weren't served, whatever the case it was, and it was too late to do anything. Like, sheriffs, like, they're about to be pushed out of their home. And every day listening to things of that sort, like, it's kind of depressing, right? And this was during the time where the foreclosures were just like, it was a huge influx of foreclosures during that time, because of, that's a whole nother video. We're not gonna talk about that in this video, but you get it. Like, like, people were just signing these. I say some of these mortgages being signed with kind of predatory, especially the balloon payments, because how you going from paying $500 a month, and then all of a sudden, at the end, you got to pay this huge amount. But anyway, so whatever the case, is depressing. Like, if you're looking at it on the news and you're seeing the impact of that, if you know of anything around that time, it was just so sad because so many people were losing their homes. They worked hard, they signed up for these mortgages, and maybe at the time they could afford it, and then in another time they couldn't. And life happens, and we know that now in 2025. Like, life happens, and 1 minute you have it and 1 minute you don't. And so there was no flexibility for people to save their homes, not as many options as there are now. So whatever the case is, I didn't like that. And I had already had, like, a psychology degree. And so I'm just like, I don't know if I want to be in the therapy because of the personality that I have. I won't let nothing go. And if I was taking home people, foreclosure woes home, what would it be like, if I was to being a therapist, where my job is actually essentially listening and helping someone. And if I can't shake their problems, mentally, that might not work for me. So I realized I still want to make an impact, because I don't want to stay here in this foreclosure law firm for those reasons I stated. So I went back to school, got my MBA into human resource management, because I felt like, yes, I'm still helping people, and yes, there may still be heavy situations, but it's enough for me to shake off and not take home. So you, first of all, you have to know yourself, and this is what this video is about. Like, it's good, you found a passion, you want to make an impact, that's amazing, but make sure that your passion is something you want to do full time, or if it's something that should just stay a hobby, where you don't have to do it all the time, and make sure that the money that you accrue, can still sustain your lifestyle. So these are things that we're going to talk about for reason number 2. So from my research, it says, besides flexibility, the older we become, the more we are looking for meaning in our work. It is reported that an average age for a career change is 39 years old. However, the same data indicated that the age range is 25 to 30 where people shift careers. So it's seeming like it's getting early. People are not waiting a decade now. They're waiting 5 years, and they're like, look, I'm 25, I need to move on. So from, I guess, 25 to your 40s, you're like, okay, I need to shift. I want to do something else that's, big meaning. So people are thinking more about the big picture now, and salary is not always a factor, right? Like, yes, you need money to survive and things of that sort, but some things are more important than money. And like we said earlier, mental health, right? So you hear about these people, like we see this all the time. Somebody's like an engineer or like a brain surgeon, and they're just like, I've been a brain surgeon for years, and I woke up one day and said, I'm going to open a bakery. And so they realized, like, maybe they became a doctor because they had no choice when they were a kid. Because, like I said, baby boomers is like, look, you go to college or you go to the military. Those are your only two choices. Now there are so many other options, trades and the certifications and stuff that we spoke on in the last video, where there's more options. But back then, is you gonna serve the country or you gonna go to the university? And so a lot of people were pushed into being doctors and lawyers and engineers and all those high executive situations, and then they turn a certain age and they're just like, I don't like this. Like, this is not fulfilling for me anymore. I want to do more with my life. And so, yes, you could say, well, Renita, that's easy if they're an engineer and they have a paying salary, or they can just transition from one thing to another. But what about those that are not fulfilled, and they don't have the income, and they don't have the high salary or the financial flexibility to switch to a new career? And that's where we get it. So now I know there's a lot of hype about I quit my job and I follow my passion, and that's great for those who do that. Like, it's great for those who can do that, who can afford to do that. But there are a lot of people that can't, and I see on social media where people are like, well, I'm not working that 9 to 5, and because I'm going after my passion. So people that work that 9 to 5, you need to quit being scary. But I don't think it's a level of being scary. Some people like the comfort while they're working on their new career, to have the comfort of having like income, where they can lean on, and then there are some that quit that don't have that. And here's my answer to both: to each his own. This is be your own kind. If you feel that you need to quit and just say screw it and don't go back, then fine. But if you feel like, hey, I need that cushion, I need that expected income every other week, or whatever the frequency, whatever pay frequency, then that's good too. There is no right or wrong way. It's your life. You write the chapter, but I want to talk about both because whether you're quitting your job and want to transition, and whether you want to keep your 9 to 5 and transition, there are still some things that you can keep in mind while doing so. I am loving these notes. So for both, whether you're quitting, um, or keeping your 9 to 5, I suggest before you decide either to test the waters. Once again, see if this is something that you actually want to do. I have a friend that says all the time, every good idea is not a God idea. Every idea that crosses your mind doesn't have to be executed. Like, it's great to have great ideas, but you got to bring it down, because you want to know if this is just an expensive hobby, or is this is something that you want to do. This is something that you're okay with doing over and over again, where you won't well burnout is essential. If you always have those moments where you're doing, not burnout in the sense of overdoing it, but burnout in the sense of the work being mundane. And we could do another video about when your career, you like what you do, but it's so redundant. There are things you can do to liven that up as well. You know what I'm saying? Or just take a vacation. We're getting off subject. Let's go back to the notes. And so start the side hustle first. Do something small. Like, if you want to, I don't know, write resumes. You like, I want to be more into, helping people, with their resumes, helping them with career, entering careers and how to interview, like the pre-hiring stage. Volunteer the nonprofit that offer that service, and do it part-time. I know you're not getting paid for it, but see if this is something that you want to do. See if you have the mental capacity for it, the physical capacity to do. This is like you're doing your own personal interview to see if this industry is for you. Test it out, especially if you're keeping your job, you have the flexibility to do that or whatever, And so, as we talked about on probably all three videos, like, um If you before you do the side hustle and you feel like you have no type of knowledge of that, there are so many certification programs out there. Coursera, one day I'm going to say that right. Coursera, EDX, in Udemy. Is that how you pronounce that? For affordable education. Yes, y'all, I do have a master's, but I can't pronounce everything. Uh, we also have YouTube University, where, and also networking. I'm going to say that in every video, especially in this series. Network. Okay, you're not in school anymore. That's what we talked about in the 20s. But even in that last video, I said you can go on LinkedIn, find a mentor, find somebody that's in the field that you want to be in, and find a mentor that can help you get in there, give you tips, or maybe even give you some wiggle room to be for some experience, maybe a short-term internship, or maybe a contractual job, just anything to get you familiarized with that field or whatever. So freelancing seems to be like this huge type of thing, where people are, people who have lost their job had ended up in a career as well by accident because they chose freelancing. So I looked up some of the top freelancing jobs that people are kind of like, oh, I like this, and they can actually do this with or without, a 9 to 5. Freelance writing is a top one. Virtual assistant, and that's a really good one because if you're looking for remote work and you have um administrative experience, you could just be a virtual assistant. You can be it for multiple companies or multiple small businesses if you have the time and energy to do that, and you can make money off that, and it's still you using your skills, because we talk about transferable skills all the time. Is you using that, your organization, your customer service, all things that are wrapped up in administrative work. So virtual assistant, they have a lot of and I should have looked this up for you guys. They have a lot of companies that just simply hire virtual assistants. So Google it or chat GPT to find those. And so real estate agent, a lot of people are going into realty, the realty industry, and you don't even need a degree for that. You just take a test, and it's not an easy test. So I'm saying just take a test like it's easy, because I know I don't want no realtor sending me a email like, don't make it. No, it's not easy, but it's still something you can do. And it, once again, transferable skills, customer service, marketing, because you always have to pretty much market the house. And so if you're good at marketing and good at selling things, you can go into, realty, and we really, you could keep your job for that, just for, to study and get the test, and then and slowly build clientele to the point where you're making what you making the money you need to sustain your lifestyle, and then go off into the sunset. So that's another top one. The fourth one is skilled trades, like electrical work, HVAC. They have training programs for that, or you can join the union. IBW, I know because my dad or whatever, he's a part of that union. So you could start a trade, and they used to have like an age limit if you want to enter into the union, and I believe that was eliminated due to ageism. So it doesn't matter how old you are at this point. If you want to enter a trade, you can actually enter trade through a union. That's another option, and you get paid for that. You get paid during apprenticeship. It's not a lot, but you're still getting paid while you're learning on the job. And once you complete the apprenticeship, then you're making those wages. I told people, if I knew about elevator operator salaries back when I was younger, I might have been operating an elevator. I mean, I think those people make like $50, $60 an hour. So I mean, these trades, don't forget these trades. We still need plumbers. We still need people fixing the wires in the wall. We still need elevator operators. We still need this. So it's never too late if you want to get into a skilled trade. Bookkeeping for my accountants, people that's been accounting for years and they don't want to work in corporate anymore. You could do bookkeeping, either freelancing on the side. And really, I people that are in finance, you have so much flexibility in freelancing where you actually could make money without being attached to any company. So those are just the top five, that, because I just looked up on Google what are the top five freelancing jobs. So those are the ones that that I discovered, but I also will um have a link at the bottom in the notes. It's from the site careers.usnews.com, and the title is 15 best jobs to consider for a career change in 2025. So you can look into that and see if that's something you want to do. One of them is a pilot. So yes, that's a good paying job, but once again, does it fit with your life? So I think that's kind of cool. I wonder why they didn't do people still remember when a flight attendant used to be like a huge thing? I wonder if that's still like a popular one, because you get to travel, excuse me, and things like that. I wonder if it's still a demand in that, but we're going to stay on subject because I'll start looking that up. So that is what I want to say is play around until you can, see if this is something that you want to do. Because, okay, you might want to do, let's go back to accounting. You might want to do accounting, but you might not want to do certain types of accounting. Like, because when we're in fields, people that are not in the field, they just think, accounting is this one thing, but it's different aspects and different levels and different, categories within the accounting world. Just like with HR, we don't just hire and fire and pay you. There are other things in other categories that are a part of the HR world. So you may not want to do payroll, but you might want to do training. You might want to do benefits. You might want to work with payroll taxes, which is still, that's like half payroll, half accounting. So there, look into your field and really look into your field, research the field and see what part, what sector, what category or subcategory that you'll be interested in, and check it out. The world is your oyster. You never know. Like, it's some stuff that you might not even think would be interested, and you'll start tapping into it, and then you realize that you got a knack for it, and you can sustain your lifestyle, because that's what it's about. It's about the balance, right? The balance of being able to provide, and be able to sustain financially, but also have that level of happiness and that level of impact where you feel happy, every day, and fulfilled every day for what you do. We only got one life to live. So and remember those transferable skills. So here we are. Oh, okay, before we get into um quitting your job and not quitting your job, just in case you don't know the difference between a freelancer and a fractional worker, I googled it for you. So freelancers are the focus is more project based, according to this, execution oriented, like what we were just talking about earlier, copywriting, writing, freelancing jobs. Look into that. There's so many freelancing writing jobs. I didn't really detail that a lot. I just kind of skipped over that, didn't I? The role is basically a specialist for a specific task. The commitment is short term and project based. Both of them are short term, but I believe with fractionalized working is more, it could be longer, because you're kind of filling like an executive role. So the focus for fractional workers are strategic, ongoing leadership, like marketing, finance, and product. Your role is, you're feeling like it feels a senior part-time leadership role. So if you've been like a project manager, like a senior project manager, and you want to make money on the side, or you want to just be a fractional worker or a freelancer, period, then fractional working might work for you, because now you're in a leadership role and you're getting paid, and you're saving the company money because they don't have to pay like benefits and fringes. They're just simply paying the salary. So it's kind of like you guys are scratching each other back. So it works great with the company as well. The involvement with the fractional working is integrated into the business, more like a team member. So you're kind of like an employee, but you're not. You without the benefits and the fringes. So that's kind of good to do on the side, especially if you already have benefits and fringes from your primary job. But if you want to do this and still have that, that be on that executive level, or if you're looking to transition into another industry, you can use your experience from your current industry to support you until you are able to transition into that industry if you are looking to quit your job. So that I just wanted to let you guys know the difference. All right, so for those that are quitting their job, they like, look, this 9 to 5, I'm over it. I'm over it. Here are some things I want you to be mindful of. I want you to do you. I want you to do you. But be mindful. Check your budget. Do a budget, at least a 3 month, 3 to 6 month budget, and track down all your expenses. And that includes things that you may need to get rid of in order to sustain. to financially sustain yourself. So if you have like 50 million streaming platforms, which I'm finding I have way too many, I could have just got cable, right? And maybe you're gonna have to cut a Hulu. You're gonna have to cut a Peacock. You're gonna have to cut a Netflix, just temporarily until you can, get to that financial level that you're trying to achieve. So make sure that you write down all your expenses. Make sure if you have a savings, make sure that you have it down to the T, because every dollar count. You think these $10 here and $5 here, it look like individually and separately, it looks like nothing, but collectively, $5 and $10, they add up. You get 10 of those $10, that's 100. You know what I'm saying? So be mindful of that. And although this is a disclaimer, and when I have left jobs, I'm guilty of this. So this is not me saying I've never did it, but your 401k, especially in your 30s and your 40s, is getting a little important. Like it was important in your 20s, but in your 30s and 40s, you don't want to keep like pulling or spending that. So when you quit your job and you're like, okay, I could just land on my 401k, and just live off of that. Remember, this is your future money. And most people suggest that you keep it where it's at, or you transfer it somewhere else. And I know you like, Renita, look, and I get it. So if you can't do that, if you can't transfer your 401k money, or you can't afford to do that, here is a tip. If you plan to live off your 401k, disclaimer, not recommended, but I'm going to give a pointer. If you realize I'm about to leave this job, it's over, it's done. And you've done your budget and you saw how much you're going to need to sustain, what you can do is increase the percentage of your 401k for a small amount of time right before you leave, just so you can accrue more. Now please remember that the more that you accrue in your 401k, though, the more, think of taxes. You're not going to get all of that. You're going to get extremely taxed for that. That's another reason why I say leave it alone. But some people, I read online, some people say that they've increased their 401k right before they decide to leave, maybe like 6 months and a year before, so that they had more cushion when they left that job. But you're in your 30s and you're in your 40s, and think about your future. You have to think like, retirement age might be 100 by the time we get there, but 65, I think it's like 67, 68 at this point. So that's not a lot of years left where you need to be saving for your future. And I'm gonna do a video on 401k and the importance of it in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and your 60s, because I'm finding a lot of people in their 60s and their 70s are still forced to work. They're not working by choice. They're working because they have to. And it's because of not having enough saved to sustain their financial. But I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to put that out there. But some people do when they quit, they live off their 401k. So give more into your 401k, in that instance. And am I giving you legal advice? Let me make sure I'm giving you legal advice. So as long as, I looked it up, as long as it's not for illegal acts, then that's fine. If you're quitting your job, yeah, you can do that. But if you're trying to do something illegal, look, I ain't tell you to do that. I ain't tell you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that. Okay, so let's move on. I just wanted to make sure. All right, so we got into, okay, so think about your health care, how that would be affected. There are a lot of changes going on with Medicare, Medicaid. Make sure you research them and make sure you look into that, especially if you have ailments. See if it even makes sense to lose, like, can you afford your health care separate from a company, so, or maybe you'd have to get like a part-time job that offers health care. So make sure that you don't forget about that. You always want to be covered because life happens, right? Things happen. So even if you're at your healthiest, make sure that you have some type of coverage for your health. All right. So for those that are not quitting and they like, look, I need the cushion. I need to know my money is coming in, bi-weekly. So for those people, look within your company. Look within your company. You, especially those who've been in their company like 10 years or more, and see if what the industry that you're looking into is offered by your company. If there's openings to, transition to that department, or maybe even talk to that department head and let them know that you're thinking, of entering that, and see if they can become a mentor. See if they can tell you about that. See if they have some extra work that you can do on the side, either for overtime or volunteer, where you can kind of get a feel of that industry. Start within before you go outside. Start within your company to see if there are opportunities for you to get exposed to that industry, and I still the freelancing is for both, but if you don't really know where to start with the freelancing, try that, and you have invested into your company. I mean, you've been there for 10 years. See if they have any type of tuition waiver, any type of education or leadership courses that they can offer you to help you get where you have to go. Because some nowadays companies are investing into their employees. So if they're saying, "Oh, you want to move, we can help you move within the company, and we also have the tools to help you get you there." So, you know, um, that yeah, go within. So another thing that a lot of people like me, because I have my side hustle, freelance, whatever, and then I work a 9 to 5. And I find that when you work a 9 to 5, you don't always have flex, like the time. So for a person that quit their job, they literally have, excuse me, they literally have 24/7 to work on it. There's 8 hours out of my day that is dedicated to my 9 to 5. So um, when I get home, I may be too tired sometimes, and I may not be able to always work on my individual projects because life. I'm a wife, blah blah blah. So that is why a lot of people quit their jobs. But those people who have kept their 9 to 5, just like I advise the people that's quitting to budget their money, budget your time. I find that when I budget my time, okay, I'm going to dedicate an hour to this each day, 2 hours to this day, or 3 hours this day, or on the weekend I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning and do just power out 5 hours and put like, organize your time, budget your time. Even if you put it on your calendar, from this time I'm going to be doing that, and it actually does help. And you look at a little bit each day adds up to a lot. So that's my advice I can give to you. If you're feeling discouraged and feel like you don't have enough time, especially if you are a parent, married, other obligations, try to carve in your business and carve in your passion into your schedule. So yeah. So now we're going to get into people who have gaps in their resume. And I think this is important because in our 20s, this is when, the kids happen. And so to save on daycare, or just to keep that bond with your children during their early rearing years, you want to stay home with the children. And I looked up at LinkedIn. There's a LinkedIn survey saying that the top reason that people take a break for women is parenting. And that was like 33.6% of the workers in that survey. And 15.3% of the employees said career development was the reason for men. So men go back to school or trade or whatever, and then they enter into that field. As I'm going to continue to say, and as I said in the intro, create your story. And you're not really creating your story, you're building a narrative of the experience that you already had. So if you were in a career, you had children, you took time off, there are things that you learned as being a parent. First of all, multitask, because parenting is not easy. And I had a friend that was a stay-at-home mom, and I went to visit her one day, and baby, I got more breaks at my 9 to 5 than she did, with the children. And so there's a lot of skills, that she acquired by being a stay-at-home mom. And while she was staying at home, she also earned her master's degree. And so during this time, if you can fit in education maybe part-time, either through that or the certifications that we talked about earlier, you're still getting into the field or being educated about that field. And then once the children are old enough and they can go to school and they're independent enough, when you re-enter the work the workforce, you have that under your belt. Yes, I have been, taking care of the children, but I also got my degree in whatever, and I'm ready to enter, back into the workforce. So build your story. Let them know. Don't just, you got like a 5-year gap and they'll be like, well, what happened in these 5 years? Oh, I stay home with the kids. No, I didn't. Let me tell you what I did while I was at home. I made sure that, that the kids were clean, they were taken care of, the dishes was washed, the food was cooked, things of that sort. Like, basically you're a project manager at this point. You're able to handle all these projects within the house. And meanwhile, I went to school and I learned this, and even, if the kids start going to daycare, volunteer and get some information, and get some experience as well. But don't downplay being an at-home mom. Mark down what you did, create that. I took a career off to be with my children, but while being a mother, these are some of the skills that I had to acquire, because some of these skills as a mother you have to acquire if you want to keep these children alive. So you can tell your story. It's how you present your story and how you present your experience in these interviews that help you get the job. If you're not confident in your story, and if you're walking in there shameful of your story, or feeling like you're unqualified, they pick up on that energy. So you walk in there like a proud at home mom, or you walk in there as a proud at home dad, and you say, yes, this is what I did during this gap, and these are the skills that I acquired doing it. Especially if you're part of the I ain't got no kids. What is it called with the school or whatever? Is it the PTA? If you're a part of things like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, highlight that. So yeah, I'm gonna say that again. So once again, for those that are doing it, that's the first suggestion. The second suggestion is, I found out about a concept called a returnship. Now, we know about internships, where you you pretty much unpaid. Paid, it can be paid or unpaid, where you're kind of just getting a feel of that industry. But there's also something called a returnship. And the definition in my notes, I'm keeping up with it. The definition of a returnship are programs that are paid short-term opportunities for experienced professionals to re-enter the workforce after a career break for personal reasons, such as caregiving or education. They function like an internship, but for mid-career individuals, providing structured training, mentorship, and project-based work to update skill and gain recent experience. And sometimes completion of these returnships can land you a full-time job. It can either land you just the experience, but it can land you experience and a full-time job. So if you're re-entering they have made room for people. That's what I'm saying. Like, the workforce is not what it used to be. It is now accommodating all walks of life, all decisions. If you had to stop and take care of your kids, we get it. But if you want to re-enter the workforce, here is returnships that you can participate in to get back into that field. And it doesn't even have to, I'm just using stay-at-home mom, but it could be a myriad of reasons why you had to take a break from the workforce. But there are options out there to help you re-enter it. So don't be discouraged if you like, man, I haven't worked in 10 years. There are things out here. So I actually looked up the returnships just so and I'm going to provide this link to you guys. Let me share my screen right quick. I'm going to share this link with you guys in the notes. And this is relaunch.com. And look at these companies. You got like Moody's and Ford and ADM, Wells Fargo, Johnson & Johnson, Dell. And those are just like a small list. Look how long this list is of jobs, that you can enter for a returnship. So all is not lost. All is not lost. So I'm gonna once again, I'm gonna provide this link to you in the notes as well, and share this for anybody that is looking to re-enter the workforce or looking to change careers. Please share this video, especially if they're feeling discouraged, because you're not stuck. You're not stuck. Stuck is a mindset, but there's always a way to get something done. That's how I live my life. Even if I have to ask someone, most of the times you do, there are people out here that are experts in certain fields. And if you feel like you've reached your ceiling, go to that expert, read them books, go online and research. There's always a way for something. And anytime you're entering something new, you have to be patient, right? Because now you once again you got to gain the experience. You got to get acclimated to the industry or re-enter in the workforce or whatever. So have patience with yourself. Anything new is not going to be like straightforward. Anything new, you're in that learning stage. You're in that I'm not confident about this, and it is not that you're not confident in yourself. You just don't know the information. You just don't have the experience. So make sure that stays there and that doesn't bleed into your actual confidence of getting the job done and learning how to get things done, because we learn things all the time, especially with technology. Just when I think I got one thing on technology, then they put something else on the phone and I have to learn it and I have to learn it. That's why I said keeping up with the times, keeping up with the terms, keeping up with the trends. You must continue to do that. Things and policies change all the time. They change all the time. In industries. The industry is changing constantly. Whatever was okay 10 years ago is not okay now. Whatever, like even medical providers, they constantly have to go to seminars and they constantly have to do continuing education courses because medicine is changing all the time. And that's in any industry. Any industry, even in customer service. Our cash registers that we had at McDonald's is not the same as they are now. Like they just clicking on buttons. And then I went into Taco Bell and it wasn't even a person there. I think that's in McDonald's too, where you just help yourself, you pay for your food and you wait for them to call your food. Like things are changing all the time. So make sure that you just stay with the terms and keep up with the terms and keep learning. Never stop learning. Okay, this video was a little lengthy, but I feel like it was full of a lot of rich information. Thank you for tuning in. And next Wednesday, we are going to talk about landing careers in your 50s and your 60s. These are our experts, and I feel like these are the people that may also fall into the fractionalized workers because you are the experts. But we're going to get into you next Wednesday. So if you have any questions about anything that I've spoke about in this video or just any general HR questions, be sure to email me at info@beyourownkind.com, or you can drop your questions in the comments and I can respond. And until next time, own your difference. Even in the professional world, this is BYOK HR, where we are making HR human. I just came up with my motto. Like, no, for real, I did just come up with that model like a couple of days ago because I feel like HR is just so much as with any industry. And so when people see HR, they're just like, I don't know what it is. And my mentor brought that to my attention. Like, she was like, people kind of get frazzled with HR because they don't really know, like, it's overwhelming, it's overstimulating. And so one of the purposes of my videos and of my HR and business solution is to make it where you can understand it. That's why we're going to be getting into a lot of things, but I wanted to start with the interviewing because I heard a podcast and I've been seeing it coming across a lot of articles where people are just discouraged with even with interviewing because they do all the work, they go on these sites and they fill out an application for an hour and give their whole life story just to not even get a response. And so this is why I wanted to start here. And so there's so much more we could talk about, especially if you send me questions, because if you send me questions, then I know what subject that I should share with you guys. But anyway, I'm doing a Midwest goodbye. So I will see you guys next Wednesday. If you know someone in their 50s and their 60s, tell them to head all over here and just get a little insight on that. And until next time, own your difference and you got this. You got this. Bye.